As a Man Thinketh is one of the shortest self-improvement classics ever written, but its central message is so powerful that it has influenced generations of readers. James Allen builds the entire book around one simple but life-changing idea: a person's thoughts shape their character, and their character shapes their life. In other words, your outer world is deeply connected to your inner world. This is what makes the book feel both empowering and challenging. It tells the reader that life is not random in the way it often seems. Circumstances may feel external, but many of the patterns in a person's life are linked to the thoughts they repeatedly entertain. Thoughts become habits. Habits become actions. Actions become character. And character begins shaping destiny. Allen is not saying that every event in life is under complete personal control. He is speaking more deeply about the law of cause and effect within the human mind. Just as a seed produces a specific kind of plant, the mind produces a specific kind of life. If a person feeds resentment, fear, laziness, jealousy, bitterness, or selfishness, those mental patterns eventually show up in behavior and consequences. If a person feeds discipline, courage, compassion, clarity, patience, and purpose, those qualities also begin to shape real outcomes. What makes this message timeless is that it restores personal responsibility in a very direct way. It asks the reader to stop seeing thoughts as harmless background noise and start seeing them as formative forces. The life you build is not shaped only by what you do occasionally. It is shaped by what you think repeatedly. At first, this can feel uncomfortable because it removes many excuses. It becomes harder to blame life entirely on fate, luck, or other people when you realize your own mind has been quietly influencing your direction all along. But this idea is also deeply hopeful. If thoughts shape life, then change becomes possible at the root. You do not always begin by changing the outer result. You begin by changing the inner pattern. This opening idea makes the entire book feel like an invitation to self-examination. James Allen is asking the reader to become more conscious of what they allow into their mind and what they repeatedly believe about themselves, other people, and the world. He is suggesting that life transformation begins in a place many people ignore: their daily thinking. That is why this short book has endured for so long. It gives readers a framework that is simple, direct, and powerful. Your thoughts matter. Your inner world matters. And the quality of your life is deeply connected to the quality of your mind. One of James Allen's foundational ideas is that character is not something accidental. It is built from thought. A person becomes what they think about consistently. This does not mean every passing thought defines who you are, but the repeated patterns of thought you nurture eventually shape your habits, attitudes, responses, and moral strength. This is important because many people think of character as fixed. They speak as though some people are simply strong, disciplined, kind, wise, or weak by nature. But Allen sees character as something cultivated. He believes the mind is like a garden. If it is neglected, weeds grow naturally. If it is tended carefully, it can produce something strong, clean, and nourishing. That image is one of the most practical in the book. A garden does not become beautiful by accident. It requires awareness, effort, and removal of what is harmful. The same is true of the mind. If a person allows resentment, anger, self-pity, envy, and fear to grow unchecked, those thoughts eventually become part of who they are. But if they consciously cultivate discipline, patience, gratitude, courage, and self-control, their character begins changing in that direction. Allen wants the reader to understand that character is revealed in action, but formed in thought. Before a person acts selfishly, carelessly, or nobly, a mental pattern usually comes first. The action is often just the visible result of something that has been silently developing inside. This matters because it means personal growth must go deeper than behavior alone. A person may try to act differently for a short time, but unless the thought pattern changes, the old behavior tends to return. Lasting change happens when the mind itself is retrained. The practical lesson here is that if you want to become a stronger person, you must watch what you repeatedly allow yourself to think. What stories are you reinforcing? What emotional habits are shaping your reactions? What attitudes are you feeding every day? Allen's message is not about perfection. It is about awareness and responsibility. He wants readers to stop treating thought as passive and start treating it as creative. Because over time, the person you become is deeply influenced by what you mentally rehearse. This is one of the book's most empowering truths. If character is built, then character can be rebuilt. No matter what your past habits of thought have been, you are not locked into them forever. Through conscious attention and steady effort, the inner life can be refined, and when that happens, the outer life begins to change as well. A central claim in As a Man Thinketh is that circumstances do not merely happen to a person in isolation. They often reveal something about the condition of that person's mind. James Allen is not saying that every hardship is deserved or that life is always fair. His deeper point is that outer conditions often reflect inner tendencies, patterns, and qualities that have been developing over time. This idea is easy to resist because most people are far more aware of external events than internal causes. They see the visible result, but they do not always see the thought patterns that helped shape it. Allen wants readers to look beneath the surface. He believes that actions, relationships, habits, and even repeated forms of struggle are often connected to the quality of one's thinking. For example, a disorganized life may reflect a disorganized mind. Repeated conflict may reflect inner irritation, selfishness, or impatience. Progress in one area may reflect growing discipline, faith, or clarity. Allen is not simplifying life into a rigid formula. He is asking the reader to notice that the outer life often carries traces of the inner one. This is a deeply practical lesson because it changes how a person responds to difficulty. Instead of asking only, "Why is this happening to me?" they may begin asking, "What in me needs to change? What attitude, belief, fear, or weakness has been contributing to this pattern?" That shift is powerful because it restores agency. If circumstances are connected to the inner life, then improvement becomes more possible. A person is no longer trapped in complaint alone. They can begin growing at the source. Allen also points out that both pleasant and painful conditions can serve as teachers. Success may reveal diligence and right effort. Struggle may reveal confusion, carelessness, or attachment to unhealthy habits. In either case, life becomes a mirror. It shows a person what has been growing inside. This idea is not meant to shame the reader. It is meant to wake them up. Circumstances can become meaningful when they are used for self-understanding. Instead of being seen only as rewards or punishments, they can be seen as indicators of what the mind has been producing. The deeper lesson is that outer reform without inner reform is limited. You can change environments, routines, or appearances for a while, but if the same thoughts continue ruling your mind, the same patterns often return. Real and lasting change begins when a person becomes willing to examine the mental roots beneath visible outcomes. That is why Allen's message remains powerful. It asks people to stop living only at the surface of life and start understanding the deeper connection between thought and experience. One of the most memorable metaphors in As a Man Thinketh is James Allen's comparison of the mind to a garden. It is a simple image, but it captures the book's central teaching with remarkable clarity. A garden can be cultivated carefully, or it can be left neglected. In either case, something will grow. The same is true of the human mind. If the mind is not guided with intention, unhealthy thoughts will often take root on their own. Fear, resentment, anxiety, laziness, self-pity, anger, and envy do not usually need much encouragement. Like weeds, they can spread quietly if they are not noticed and removed. But noble thoughts also grow when planted and protected. Patience, discipline, compassion, courage, gratitude, purpose, and self-control. This metaphor matters because it removes the illusion that the mind stays neutral when ignored. Many people assume that if they are not doing obvious harm, they are fine. But Allen suggests that neglect itself is a form of danger. A mind left unattended does not remain clear by accident. It becomes filled by whatever is easiest, loudest, or most habitual. That is why mental cultivation requires effort. A gardener must notice what is growing, remove what is harmful, and intentionally plant what is useful. Likewise, a thoughtful person must observe their inner life, challenge destructive patterns, and develop stronger ones. This is not a one-time task. It is an ongoing discipline. The practical lesson is that self-improvement begins with daily mental attention. What thoughts are you allowing to stay? Which ones are weakening your peace, character, or focus? What qualities do you need to plant more deliberately? Allen's image is powerful because it makes thought management feel tangible. You do not have to treat the mind like a mystery. You can work with it. You can train it. You can remove what is destructive and strengthen what is life-giving. This section also shows that change takes time. A garden does not transform overnight. Neither does the mind. If destructive thoughts have been growing for years, they may not disappear instantly. But steady cultivation changes the result over time. Small acts of attention, repeated consistently, begin to produce a different inner climate. What makes this metaphor so enduring is that it is both warning and encouragement. It warns that neglect has consequences, but it also encourages by showing that intentional care produces visible change. A mind that is disciplined and nourished begins to bear different fruit. James Allen's deeper message is that no one escapes cultivation. The only question is whether it happens consciously or unconsciously. And in his view, the quality of your life depends greatly on how seriously you take the tending of your mental garden. James Allen does not simply argue that thoughts shape life. He also insists that thought must be connected to purpose. A wandering mind creates weakness, but a directed mind creates strength. One of the great dangers he sees is aimless thinking, where a person moves through life without clear intention, allowing distraction, fear, and unstable moods to pull them in different directions. Purpose changes that. When a person has a clear aim, their thoughts begin organizing themselves around it. Energy becomes more concentrated. Choices become more meaningful. Difficulties become easier to bear because they are connected to something larger than immediate comfort. This is important because many people suffer not only from negative thoughts, but from scattered ones. Their mind jumps from worry to fantasy to doubt to distraction. Without purpose, thought loses power because it has no consistent direction. Allen believes this lack of direction weakens both character and achievement. But when a person sets a meaningful purpose, thought becomes disciplined. The mind is less likely to be ruled by passing emotions because it is anchored by intention. This does not remove all struggle, but it creates stability. The practical lesson here is simple. If you want your mind to become stronger, give it a worthy direction. Ask yourself what you are building, what you value, and what kind of life you are trying to create. Once purpose becomes clear, thoughts can be judged by whether they support that purpose or sabotage it. Allen also connects purpose with perseverance. A person with no clear aim gives up easily because discomfort feels pointless. A person with clear purpose can endure difficulty with more patience because they understand what they are moving toward. This section is especially useful because it turns thought into something active and disciplined. The mind is not meant only for reaction. It is meant for direction. When purpose is absent, thought becomes chaotic. When purpose is present, thought can become powerful. Allen's deeper point is that great lives are not created by vague wishing. They are built when thought is harnessed to a definite aim. That aim may be moral, creative, spiritual, professional, or deeply personal. What matters is that it is clear enough to guide your inner life. In the end, purpose gives thought dignity. It transforms thinking from random mental activity into a shaping force. And in James Allen's worldview, That is one of the great turning points in human development. The moment a person begins thinking with purpose, they begin living with greater strength. One of the most inspiring aspects of As a Man Thinketh is James Allen's belief that dreams and visions are not foolish. They are often the starting point of real transformation. Before anything meaningful is created in the outer world, it usually appears first in the inner one. A person imagines a better life, a stronger character, a noble achievement, a more peaceful way of living. That vision becomes the seed of change. Allen respects dreams because he sees them as signs of what a person may grow into if they are willing to align thought and action. He does not treat dreams as enough by themselves. He is not promoting fantasy without effort. Instead, he is emphasizing that aspiration matters. What a person consistently holds in mind begins influencing what they move toward. This matters because many people dismiss their higher visions too quickly. They tell themselves they are unrealistic, too late, too flawed, or too ordinary. As a result, they abandon the very thoughts that could have pulled them upward. Allen wants the reader to protect noble aspiration instead of mocking it. There is a practical wisdom here. If you constantly picture yourself as weak, defeated, or limited, your life begins shrinking around that identity. But if you repeatedly hold a stronger and more disciplined image of yourself, your behavior begins adjusting in that direction. The mind moves toward the pictures it believes in. This does not mean every dream automatically becomes reality. It means that the quality of your inward vision has real influence over what you are willing to attempt, endure, and become. Allen's message is especially powerful because it gives dignity to inner aspiration. Dreams are not childish when they are connected to character and purpose. They are often the beginnings of growth. The person who dreams of peace may begin cultivating calm. The person who dreams of noble work may begin building discipline. The person who dreams of wisdom may begin seeking truth more seriously. The practical takeaway is to guard your vision. Do not let cynicism destroy what is best in you. Ask what kind of person you deeply want to become, and keep that image alive through repeated thought and action. James Allen sees inner vision as a creative force. The future is shaped not only by what you currently are, but also by what you faithfully hold before your mind. That is why dreams matter. They call forth effort. They shape identity. They influence decisions. In the world of this book, the life you eventually build often begins long before anyone sees it. It begins in quiet thoughts, noble images, and inward commitments that are nurtured patiently until they become visible reality. One of the most beautiful lessons in As a Man Thinketh is James Allen's emphasis on calmness. In a world where people often associate strength with force, speed, or intensity, Allen presents calmness as a sign of mastery. A calm person is not weak. A calm person is disciplined, centered, and inwardly governed. This idea matters because emotional reactivity is one of the clearest signs that the mind has not yet been fully trained. When a person is constantly irritated, shaken, impulsive, or dominated by anxiety, their outer life becomes unstable as well. Allen believes that inward composure reflects a mind that has been purified through right thinking. Calmness does not mean passivity or a lack of feeling. It means a steady inner condition that is not easily thrown off by circumstances. The calm person still faces difficulty, disappointment, and challenge, but they are less ruled by them. They respond rather than react. This is important because many people want peace without the mental discipline that creates it. They want a calm life while still feeding chaotic thoughts. Allen's message is that peace is not merely found in outer conditions. It is developed inwardly through the cultivation of better thinking. The practical lesson is that if you want a calmer life, begin with a calmer mind. Notice what thoughts keep agitating you. Notice where anger, fear, and resentment are being fed. Then begin replacing those patterns with patience, clarity, forgiveness, and steadiness. Allen also shows that calmness carries influence. A person who is inwardly composed often affects others positively. They become a stabilizing presence. Their peace creates trust. Their restraint creates wisdom. Their lack of panic creates perspective. This makes calmness not only personally valuable, but socially powerful as well. The person who governs themselves well is often the person others instinctively respect. In today's fast and overstimulated world, this lesson feels especially relevant. Many people mistake agitation for passion and noise for strength. James Allen offers a different model. The strongest mind is often the quietest, clearest, and most self-possessed. His deeper message is that peace is earned through discipline. Calmness is not simply a mood that arrives by chance. It is the fruit of a mind that has learned to reject turmoil and live in harmony with higher thoughts. And according to Allen, that kind of inner peace is one of the highest forms of power a person can develop. James Allen also explores the connection between the mind and the body. He argues that the body is influenced by thought more than most people realize. While the body is certainly shaped by food, environment, and physical habits, Allen believes mental patterns also leave their mark. Worry, bitterness, anger, fear, and destructive obsession can wear on a person physically, while cheerful, disciplined, and peaceful thinking can support greater vitality. This idea is not meant to deny the complexity of health. Allen's point is more practical and moral. The mind is not sealed off from the body. Inner conditions affect outward conditions. What a person thinks repeatedly can influence their energy, posture, expression, habits, and general quality of life. This matters because many people overlook how much internal stress, resentment, and anxiety shape their physical experience. They may focus only on external fixes while continuing to feed mental patterns that exhaust them from within. Allen wants readers to understand that mental discipline contributes to physical well-being. A cleaner mind often supports cleaner habits. A more hopeful attitude often supports better energy. A more self-controlled inner life often leads to more self-controlled behavior. There is also a visible aspect to this. Over time, a person's face, tone, and manner can begin reflecting the dominant mood of their mind. Gentle thinking softens expression. Harsh thinking hardens it. Long-term worry leaves a different mark than long-term peace. The practical lesson is not that thought alone solves every physical problem. It is that health becomes stronger when the mind is included in the process. If you want greater well-being, pay attention not only to what you consume physically, but also to what you consume mentally. What fears are you rehearsing? What anger are you holding? What emotional patterns are exhausting your system? And on the positive side, what calm, gratitude, hope, or discipline might begin nourishing you more deeply? Allen's teaching here is both simple and profound. The human being is not split neatly into separate compartments. Mind, body, emotion, and behavior influence each other constantly. That is why inward reform has wider effects than people expect. In the end, this section strengthens the book's broader message. Your inner life matters in practical ways. Thoughts are not abstract. They participate in shaping the quality of your everyday existence, including how you feel, act, and carry yourself through the world. Although As a Man Thinketh is deeply philosophical, it also contains a clear message about achievement. James Allen believes that success in the outer world is linked to discipline in the inner one. Achievement does not come only from talent, luck, or desire. It grows when a person becomes mentally orderly, purposeful, and persistent. This matters because many people admire successful outcomes without paying attention to the character behind them. They see the visible accomplishment, but not the inward self-control, concentration, patience, and clarity that often made it possible. Allen argues that weak thinking usually produces weak results. A mind ruled by confusion, laziness, self-doubt, and inconsistency struggles to produce strong work over time. But a disciplined mind becomes capable of sustained effort. It can focus more clearly, persevere more steadily, and recover more effectively from setbacks. This is one of the reasons Allen places such importance on thought. He sees achievement not as something separate from character, but as one of its expressions. The person who builds something meaningful usually does so because they first built something inwardly, stronger habits of mind. The practical lesson is that if you want better results, do not look only at technique. Look at attention. Look at belief. Look at self-command. Look at whether your thoughts are supporting your efforts or quietly weakening them. This also changes how a person interprets failure. Instead of only feeling defeated, they may begin asking what mental weakness needs strengthening. Is the problem lack of persistence? Lack of clarity? Lack of discipline? Lack of faith in the process? In Alan's view, these inner factors matter deeply. He is not promising that every disciplined person becomes publicly successful in the same way. He is making a more universal point. Growth in results usually follows growth in character. The more ordered the mind, the more effective the action tends to become. This principle is especially useful for people chasing goals in work, study, creativity, or personal development. It reminds them that progress is not built only by external strategies. It is also built by inward steadiness. Alan's deeper message is that achievement has a moral dimension. It is not only about gaining outcomes. It is about becoming the kind of person capable of carrying them wisely. And for that reason, inner discipline is not just a tool for success. It is part of success itself. A powerful undercurrent throughout As a Man Thinketh is personal responsibility. James Allen's philosophy leaves little room for passive living. If thoughts shape character and life, then each person carries a profound responsibility for the state of their mind. No one else can think for you in the deepest sense. No one else can guard your inner world for you. No one else can do the work of mental cultivation on your behalf. This idea is challenging because it removes the comfort of blaming everything outside yourself. Of course, other people influence us. Circumstances affect us. Society shapes us in real ways. But Allen is pointing to something deeper than influence. He is saying that the individual still has a duty to govern their own thoughts. That responsibility is what gives human dignity its seriousness. You are not merely a passive product of environment. You are also a participant in your own formation. Through repeated thought, you are always shaping something. This matters because many people wait for life to improve before they begin improving their mind. Allen reverses that order. He suggests that the better starting point is inner reform. Instead of waiting for ideal conditions, begin taking charge of the one area that is most directly yours, your own thinking. The practical lesson is that self-leadership starts internally. Pay attention to what you encourage in yourself. Refuse to indulge every destructive thought. Do not let resentment, fear, or helplessness become your default inner language. Begin challenging what weakens you and reinforcing what strengthens you. Allen's view is demanding, but it is also liberating. If no one else can do this work for you, that means your future is not entirely in someone else's hands either. Responsibility and freedom rise together. This principle is especially valuable in self-improvement because it prevents dependence on inspiration alone. Instead of waiting for motivation, approval, or rescue, a person begins practicing inward leadership. They learn to become more deliberate, more watchful, and more honest with themselves. In the world of this book, the individual mind is sacred ground. What you plant there matters too much to leave it unguarded. And, because no one else can fully protect it for you, personal responsibility becomes unavoidable. James Allen's deeper message is simple and strong. If you want a better life, begin by becoming a better thinker. That work is yours. And in that fact lies both the challenge and the hope of human freedom. James Allen does not ignore suffering. He understands that life includes hardship, disappointment, and pain. But in As a Man Thinketh, he suggests that suffering can serve a purpose if a person is willing to learn from it. Instead of seeing difficulty only as punishment or unfairness, it can sometimes be understood as a form of instruction. This does not mean romanticizing pain or denying injustice. Allen's point is more inward. Suffering often exposes the thoughts, attachments, fears, and weaknesses that peace had previously hidden. It reveals where the mind is still untrained. It shows what has been overvalued, misunderstood, or left undisciplined. This is why hardship can become transformative. A person who is willing to reflect may discover through suffering what no comfort had ever forced them to see. They may realize how much anger they were carrying, how much fear controlled them, how much their peace depended on unstable things, or how little inner steadiness they had built. That recognition can become a turning point. Pain, when met with honesty, can drive deeper self-understanding. It can strip away illusion. It can create seriousness. It can become the beginning of wisdom. Allen wants the reader to understand that suffering does not automatically ennoble anyone. It becomes valuable only if it is used. Some people become bitter through pain. Others become clearer, humbler, and stronger. The difference lies in the response. The practical lesson is to ask more from hardship than emotional reaction alone. When difficulty comes, instead of responding only with complaint, ask what it is revealing. What in you is being exposed? What can be learned? What thought pattern must now be changed? This approach does not erase pain, but it gives it meaning. It prevents suffering from being wasted. It turns hardship into a possible source of purification and growth. This principle is deeply consistent with Allen's broader philosophy. Since the inner life shapes the outer one, difficult outer experiences can sometimes become catalysts for inner refinement. The pain becomes part of the process by which the mind is awakened and strengthened. In the end, Allen offers a serious but hopeful perspective. Suffering is not always meaningless. When met with honesty, responsibility, and a willingness to grow, it can become one of life's most demanding but effective teachers. As a Man Thinketh moves steadily toward the idea that right thinking leads not only to stronger character and better action, but also to inner peace. James Allen believes peace is not an accident of fortunate circumstances. It is the result of inward order. When the mind becomes purified of needless fear, resentment, selfishness, and confusion, a deeper kind of quiet begins to emerge. This is important because many people search for peace externally while leaving the mind in conflict. They want calm without discipline, confidence without self-control, and rest without inner clarity. Allen's message is that peace must be built at the level of thought. Right thinking does not mean artificially positive thinking. It means truthful, disciplined, compassionate, and balanced thinking. It means refusing thoughts that poison the spirit and choosing those that strengthen wisdom, patience, and harmony. The practical effect of this is enormous. A more peaceful mind makes better decisions. It reacts less impulsively. It sees more clearly. It suffers less from self-created turmoil. Even when life remains difficult, the inward experience changes. Allen wants the reader to understand that mental conflict often comes from allowing lower thoughts to dominate. Envy disturbs peace. Anger disturbs peace. Fear disturbs peace. Self-pity disturbs peace. But the more a person lives with understanding, patience, humility, and self-mastery, the more peace becomes natural. This section matters because it shows the ultimate reward of mental discipline. It is not just achievement or outward order. It is inward serenity. The person who has learned to think rightly becomes less dependent on favorable circumstances to feel stable. Their peace is rooted more deeply. The practical takeaway is to treat peace as something cultivated, not chased. Examine what repeatedly robs you of steadiness. Identify the thought habits that keep stirring unnecessary suffering. Then patiently replace them with stronger patterns. In a noisy world, this message feels especially valuable. Many people are overstimulated, emotionally reactive, and inwardly divided. James Allen offers a quieter path. Train the mind. Refine thought. Build inward order. Let peace grow as a result. His deeper point is that peace is one of the clearest signs of a mature mind. It reflects not passivity, but power. The person who has gained command over thought has gained access to one of life's greatest treasures, a steady heart and a quiet mind. Throughout as a Man Thinketh, James Allen keeps returning to the moral quality of thought. He does not see thoughts as neutral tools. He sees them as seeds of either nobility or decline. The kind of life a person builds is influenced not just by the intensity of their thinking, but by its quality. Noble thoughts create a noble life. This means that ambition alone is not enough. Strong thought that is selfish, bitter, or dishonest may still produce action, but it does not create true wholeness. Allen is interested in a higher vision of success, one connected to goodness, self-control, integrity, compassion, and peace. This matters because it expands the meaning of self-improvement. The book is not merely about getting more. It is about becoming better. It asks not only whether your thinking is effective, but whether it is worthy. Are your thoughts making you more truthful, more disciplined, more patient, more generous, more inwardly free? Allen's framework suggests that the deepest success is moral and spiritual as much as practical. A person may gain wealth or recognition while remaining inwardly disturbed, selfish, or unstable. That is not the kind of triumph he admires. For him, the highest achievement is to become a person whose mind is aligned with higher principles. The practical lesson is to examine the quality of your thoughts, not just their usefulness. Do your inner habits make you more admirable, more trustworthy, more peaceful, more capable of serving others well? This section is important because it keeps the book from becoming shallow. James Allen is not promoting self-improvement for vanity alone. He is calling the reader to a more elevated standard. He wants them to understand that thought shapes not only results, but soul. This means that daily thinking becomes a moral practice. Every repeated attitude is building something in you. Every indulgence in bitterness weakens something. Every return to patience strengthens something. Every selfish thought reinforces a lower self. Every noble thought nourishes a higher one. Allen's message is deeply hopeful because it suggests that goodness can be cultivated. Peace can be cultivated. Wisdom can be cultivated. A better life begins not only through strategy, but through the repeated choice to entertain better thoughts. In the end, noble living begins inwardly. A noble life is not built in grand moments alone, but in quiet decisions of the mind repeated day after day. And that, for Allen, is where true greatness begins. A powerful implication of James Allen's philosophy is that the future is being shaped in the present through thought. Many people imagine the future as something distant, almost abstract. But as a Man Thinketh, the future is being formed right now by the patterns a person is accepting and reinforcing in their own mind. This matters because it makes today more significant. A thought is not just a moment. It is part of a direction. Every repeated belief, attitude, and mental habit is helping create the kind of person you are becoming and the kind of life you are moving toward. That is why Allen places so much emphasis on discipline. The present mind is not harmless. It is creative. If a person spends today in resentment, fear, laziness, or confusion, those patterns do not stay contained. They tend to become tomorrow's character and eventually tomorrow's circumstances. In the same way, if a person spends today cultivating clarity, self-control, courage, and noble intention, those qualities begin building a better future. This gives ordinary life enormous weight. It means that small moments of thought matter more than people assume. The way you speak to yourself, the mental stories you repeat, the emotional patterns you strengthen, and the attitudes you indulge all carry forward. The practical lesson is to stop waiting for the future to inspire you and start treating your current thoughts as the material from which that future is made. Ask yourself what kind of tomorrow your present mental habits are creating. This is not meant to create anxiety. It is meant to create seriousness and hope. Seriousness, because your inner life matters. Hope, because change can begin right now. You do not need to solve your whole life at once. You need to begin thinking differently today. Alan's worldview turns the present moment into a place of power. It becomes the workshop of destiny. Not because everything changes instantly, but because everything begins there. This section is especially valuable for anyone who feels stuck in old patterns. It reminds them that the future is not determined only by the past. The future is also being shaped by what they choose mentally now. James Allen's deeper point is simple and profound. Your future life is already taking form in your present mind. Guard it wisely, train it patiently, and it will begin building something far better than drift ever could. By this point in As a Man Thinketh, it becomes clear that James Allen's larger message is really about self-rule. He is teaching that a mature life is one in which a person no longer lives under the control of every passing thought, impulse, emotion, or circumstance. Instead, they begin governing themselves from within. This idea ties the whole book together. Thought shapes character. Character shapes action. Action shapes life. Therefore, if you want a better life, you must begin with self-government at the level of mind. Self-rule is not harsh repression. It is intelligent leadership of the inner world. It means noticing what weakens you and refusing to let it dominate. It means strengthening what is good until it becomes more natural. It means becoming less chaotic, less reactive, less accidental. This matters because many people live outwardly free, but inwardly ruled by fear, anger, craving, resentment, and distraction. Allen sees that as a kind of bondage. True freedom is not doing whatever impulse suggests. True freedom is having enough inward mastery to choose what is right, useful, and noble. That makes this book deeply relevant far beyond its short size. It is not only a meditation on positive thinking. It is a handbook for becoming a more governed human being. The practical lesson is to treat your mind as a place that requires leadership. Do not assume your first reaction is your best one. Do not assume every thought deserves your trust. Step back. Examine. Direct. Choose. This principle is especially important in a world filled with distraction and emotional volatility. Without self-rule, a person is easily pulled apart by external noise and internal weakness. With self-rule, they become more stable, purposeful, and free. Allen's message is demanding, but it is also deeply respectful. He is treating the reader as someone capable of discipline, wisdom, and change. He is saying, in effect, that you do not have to remain a prisoner of careless thought. You can become master of your own mind. And in his philosophy, that mastery is not only the path to outward improvement. It is one of the highest achievements of human life. The final lesson of As a Man Thinketh is both simple and profound. Change the mind, and you begin changing the life. James Allen's whole philosophy builds toward this conclusion. If thought shapes character, and character shapes action and circumstance, then the deepest point of transformation is the inner life itself. This is why the book remains so influential despite its simplicity. It offers a principle that applies across nearly every area of life. If you want stronger habits, begin with stronger thoughts. If you want more peace, begin with more disciplined thinking. If you want better relationships, begin by changing the resentments, selfishness, or impatience that may be shaping your behavior. If you want greater achievement, begin by cultivating clarity, purpose, and self-command. Allen is not promising instant results or magical control over every outcome. He is offering something more serious and more useful. He is offering a law of inward causation. The life you experience outwardly is deeply linked to the quality of what you have been building inwardly. That makes this book not only inspiring, but demanding. It does not let the reader stay passive. It calls for reflection, self-honesty, discipline, and daily effort. It asks you to become aware of what you are thinking and what kind of life those thoughts are silently creating. But this message is also deeply hopeful. It means change is possible at the root. Even if outer conditions are slow to change, the inner reform can begin now. And once the mind begins to shift, other parts of life often follow in time. For anyone listening to this summary, the practical takeaway is clear. Watch your thoughts more carefully. Stop treating them as harmless. Notice what weakens your peace, character, and direction. Begin planting better patterns deliberately. Attach thought to purpose. Practice calmness. Strengthen noble qualities. Lead your own mind instead of being led by it. You do not need to transform everything in one day, but you do need to understand that your inner world deserves serious attention. Small changes in thought, repeated consistently, can become large changes in character and direction. That is the enduring power of James Allen's message. This short classic reminds us that life is shaped from the inside out. The quality of your mind becomes the quality of your days. The discipline of your thoughts becomes the structure of your future. And the moment you begin governing your mind with greater wisdom, you begin stepping into a better life. In the end, as a Man Thinketh leaves the reader with a challenge that is as timeless as ever, if you want a new life, become a new thinker.